let's go on to the second matchup that is at 4 o'clock. It is between the number 2 seed Toronto Raptors, which are the reigning champs, against the 7th seed Brooklyn Nets. My prediction is, so the Nets, obviously, Kyrie Irving's out because of an injury. KD's still recovering from his torn Achilles last season. And the Nets, it's interesting. The Nets are an interesting team because you saw the game against Portland that Portland nearly won. The Nets were playing hard. They were playing like they wanted that game despite it being more important to the Blazers than them. They just wanted to get their groove going into the playoffs. But Caris LeVert, man, Caris LeVert is a young star that I think is blossoming. He carried that team. He had like over 30 points and was just doing some craziness. And even KD was like praising him. So it's going to be interesting to see once that team is fully healthy. But despite that, they have a couple of fill-ins like Jamal Crawford, and they have Spencer Dinwiddie. They have Joe Harris, who is a sniper that can handle the offensive load and defensively. They have Jared Allen. But even despite that, the Raptors are the reigning champs. They still finished with the second best record behind the Bucks. And despite losing Kawhi Leonard, a lot of the doubters were saying that they didn't expect Toronto to even make the playoffs. They still have Kyle Lowry. They still have the most improved player, Pascal Siakam. They have Marcus Gasol, Serge Ibaka, Fred VanVleet. They have a lot of guys that just like get underneath your skin and make it tough for you to play. And they just play beautiful basketball, and they're just still playing awesome. So honestly, I at first predicted a sweep, but with Caris LeVert, I think that, and Joe Harris and Spencer Dinwiddie, I think they can at least get one. So I predict the Raptors winning this series 4-1.
Question: I didn't know if Spencer Dinwiddie was back or not. I know he had, COVID-19. I know he tested positive for it. When this bubble format was first talked about, I didn't know if he was like cleared to play for the postseason. If he is, that would definitely help. But, ironically enough, I actually had the same prediction as you with this one, where I believed that Toronto would win 4-1 because unlike, most 8 or 7 seeds, the Nets, you can't deny the fact that they have, competed in every game that they, played in these 8 games, no matter the opponent, no matter who they had out there, who the other team had. I look at this Toronto team, and like for a lot of the reasons that you just said, they're deep. They're deep and talented everywhere, all over the place. There's not many. There's not many weaknesses that team has, and everybody was made a big deal, rightfully so, because Kawhi isn't, a great player, but everybody made a big deal about him leaving. Like there would be so many weaknesses once he was gone, and they've done a great job with showing how strong they still are. I have them, possibly being in the Eastern Conference Finals against Milwaukee, because I think as great as teams like Boston, Indiana is, they don't get a lot of credit. Miami's still a good team. The Raptors, I still believe that they could beat any of those teams and, give Milwaukee a very good run for their money. So I think this is just these matchups like this are just one of those where Toronto just might have the more talented team. And as hard as Brooklyn might work, talent sometimes with hard work can put a team over the edge. So I think Toronto will have a relatively easy time with this one.
Yeah, I definitely agree, especially since it means a lot having that experience in the playoffs as well as winning a championship. They won their first championship last year, and a lot of teams got to respect that because some of these teams haven't even made it past the first round, second round, so they don't know what it's like in the conference finals or the NBA finals, and how anxiety inducing every play is. Like you have to dive for the ball, you gotta make big shots when you're down, or that's your season pretty much. Like some of these teams don't understand that. Like Brooklyn, they made it to the second round, like back in the day when they had Darren Williams, Joe Johnson, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, and all of them. But now it's just like it's still a big accomplishment that they made it to the playoffs. But like you said, like Toronto is just the better team, and like I was saying, next year it's going to be a completely different Brooklyn Nets team because they're going to have Kyrie Irving back, they're going to have Kevin Durant, and there was talks that they may try to acquire a third star. So the Nets could be a force next year. They may not make some noise this year. Like I think they're going to win a game, but I don't think they're going to challenge the Raptors to a game 7. So it's still very exciting to hear and see. And despite it not being a long series, I think it will be exciting to watch.
No, definitely, I agree with a lot of you said. Nets fans, I know it's hard. The city of Brooklyn, is happy to have, a team that's competing again. But I always thought, when I was watching them in the seeding games and stuff like that, they're a year ahead of schedule. In my opinion, they're, from where they're supposed to be, I think they're definitely a year ahead of schedule with how they played, because I think the best for them is still, very much yet to come. So they have a lot to look forward to.